We got a lot of agenda. Huh? We got a lot on the agenda. All right, I'm gonna call the Planning and Development Committee meeting to order and turn it over to Ms. Jessie.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda is discussion of a resolution directing the Town of Somerville Planning Commission to conduct a review of and make recommendations for an amended capital improvements plan and revised impact fee ordinance as required by state law.
Is there a motion to move to council?
Yeah, I'll make that motion. Now we move it to full council.
Second. All right, motion to move to full council. And second, any other discussion? I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Review of continued annexation request for TMS number 14508000022, located at the end of West Smith Street and totaling approximately 13.5 acres. Currently zoned TRM transitional residential in Dorchester County and will be zoned MFR multifamily residential upon annexation into the Town of Somerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 3. First reading was in December 2023. Second reading was postponed at the August 2024 council meeting until the February 13th, 2025 council meeting. However, I have talked to the developer and they are still working through title issues with the property. So they would like to postpone it again until November 2025.
Okay,
Good.
So it will still be on your agenda on Thursday. This was just for information only. But they would like to postpone again because they do not have the title issues worked out yet.
Very good. No action.
Yes.
Just
I'll
got
make
here
a motion that we move it to council
with a recommendation to
to approve.
I'll second that.
a motion to second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Petition by Hershey Park LLC to annex a portion of TMS number 13600000249, located at Orangeburg Road and Hershey Circle and totaling approximately 0.95 acres, to be combined with TMS numbers 13600000279 and 280. Currently zoned R2M, single family residential manufactured housing in Dorchester County, and requested to be zoned GB general business following annexation into the Town of Somerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 4. Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on January 27th, 2025.
Give a recommendation to take it to full council with recommendation of approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item D, petition by Edward H. Tupper to annex TMS number 13609000006, located at 1526 Central Avenue and totaling approximately 0.48 acres, currently zoned CN Neighborhood Commercial in Dorchester County, and requested to be zoned GB General Business following annexation into the Town of Somerville's municipal limits. This would be in Council District 4. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for denial at their meeting on January 27th, 2025. Would you like me to read the second one with it? Okay, and E is petition by trust agreement of Jane K. Upshur to annex TMS number 13609000049, located along Central Avenue and Old Parsonage Road and totaling approximately 2.77 acres, currently zoned R1 single family residential in Dorchester County, and requested to be zoned GB general business following annexation into the Town of Somerville's municipal limits. So it'd also be in Council District 4. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for denial at their meeting on January 27th, 2025.
Do you have anything to add to that?
I do not. They're together because one of them is not adjacent without the other.
Understood.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion. We take this to full council with no recommendation.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second to go to council with no recommendation. Any other discussion? I know there's a lot of people here tonight from the Parsonage Road area, and we we've heard your comments and we appreciate your comments. And as I spoke to a few of you, there's a few reasons why this is going to move to council. And as I explained, one, it's a commercial annexation for the town of Somerville, which of course relieves some tax burden on our citizens with the commercial annexation, commercial property that comes into town. Other side of that, we do want to be good neighbors and we understand your concerns and I share some of those as well. I just as an example, I just explained to someone this morning, I'm not in favor of a gas station on that corner. I'm not in favor of a a car wash or things of that nature in that area. That would be a high impact for the neighborhood, of course. But I think we got a long way to go before we get to the end of where this all lands. And there's a lot of discussion that can be had to help preserve the area that you guys have and still have a benefit, pose an opportunity for some benefits to the town of Somerville as well. So thank you all for being here with that. And with that, I'll ask for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item F is the proposed amendment to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 13, Administration and Procedures, Section 13.3.5, Design Review Board. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval with disturbs less than a quarter of an acre replaced with is 1,000 square feet or less at their meeting on January 27th, 2025. The original request came from Councilmember Halter.
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second that. However, I do have some questions.
Right.
Okay.
Any discussion? Motion is second. Discussion.
All right. So my intent was to make this less restrictive, not more restrictive. If the existing ordinance excluded properties less than a quarter of an acre, then why did the press box have to go to the DRB?
Don't remember.
Okay. All right. So let's just take it to council. I want this to be less restrictive, not more restrictive.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if the existing ordinance allows public land properties disturbing less than a quarter of acre to be exempt, and that's the way it should remain. I don't want to reduce it to 1,000 square feet.
Maybe it's because it was part of a larger parcel or something. But
I don't know. We can,
all right, we can hash it out.
as he's feeling better, we can get more
All right.
information on that.
All right. So I got a motion to go to full council. Bob, would you like to amend that to go to council with just for discussion?
Yes.
And second.
Second that.
All right. Motion is second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Item G, proposed amendment to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 3, Use Provisions, Section 3.4.3, Lodging. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for denial at their meeting on January 27th, 2025. The original request was from Councilmember Johnson Wilson.
Any motions or discussion?
I'll make a motion that we move it to council for approval.
I'll second that solely for the purpose of having the entire council weigh in on this issue. I think this is too important for the three of us to either deny taking the council.
I agree as well. Just needs to go to full council. So, yes, sir. The motion was to go to council with approval,
For discussion.
discussion. Okay. Yeah. So second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item H, proposed amendment to the Somerville Unified Development Ordinance, Chapter 3, Use Provisions, Section 3.6.1, Permitted Temporary Uses. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and made a recommendation for approval at their meeting on January 27th, 2025, and the original request came from Mayor Touchberry.
I make a motion, we take the council, the recommendation of approval.
I'll second.
All right, motion is second. Any other discussion? This is, of course, is on the temporary eating tents at the eating restaurant establishments.
It's like fish camp.
Right.
and-
Yeah,
Right.
yes, sir. All right, no other discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was it.
I'll make a
I'll make-
motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Easy enough. Motion's adjourned. We're adjourned.
And I bring the Parks and Recreation Committee into session and turn it over to Amy.
Good evening. Sorry about that. The first item on our agenda is the Cultural Arts District presentation. I've requested that Brad Erickson come and present to you. Brad Erickson, he is on the steering committee for the Cultural Arts Committee and also with South Porch Residency. So I will.
Hello, good evening, committee members. Thank you for the time. I'm really delighted to be able to present to you and kind of update you on some things, activities that have been happening with a group of arts folks in this town, people who are interested in the arts, people who are making arts. We had sort of caught wind of a state program that's been running for about a decade now at an event at Public Works Arts Center, I would say maybe about 18 months ago. The state has created in the last 10 years a new program that allows towns and cities to apply to be recognized as a cultural district, which is, think about what it is to be recognized as a historic district. It means that you have a high concentration of historic assets in a given area, and that is recognized as something that people want to avail themselves of, to come see, to pick up on that history and the culture through that historic district. The state has created a similar sort of program with a cultural district, and different towns and cities around the state are beginning to apply for and receive this recognition, including Beaufort is one of them, Georgetown, you have their map in front of you, Aiken, about a dozen or so maybe towns and cities around the state. When we first heard about this, we thought, well, my goodness, it felt like Somerville should have probably received this recognition long ago. When you think about all of the cultural and artistic assets that are just right around this building right here, so much activity that's happening, it felt like a real, just a natural thing for us as a town to be able to do. So the state naturally has a certain process that you go through, and we're partly down that road now. Part of it is you draw together folks who want to be on a steering committee. We've done that. We've been working on this. We've spoken with the mayor about this idea, other leaders as well. We had a community workshop where we had about 40 or 50 people at Public Works a couple of weeks ago, looking at the map of downtown Somerville and working together to identify what those cultural assets would be. So thinking about Public Works Arts Center, thinking about the theater, thinking about Hutchinson Square itself and all the activities that happens there, all of the sculpture that is in Azalea Park, the birds that are sort of all around the downtown area, and the many, many festivals that we have. Over 80 assets were identified at that meeting, and the energy was really high. What is the purpose of these cultural districts? So part of it is to raise attention to folks both in the town and outside of the town. The hope of the state is that this will help draw artists and other creative people and businesses into these districts. That'll help the other businesses that are in the area as well, as folks come in to take advantage of the art and culture. We'll be stopping at stores, we'll be stopping at restaurants and bars, that the economic activity will be raised, and that the cultural life and the quality of life of the town itself will be raised, and that it will help, bring in tourists and other folks who will be able to take advantage of this and have a new curiosity. I have to say, when I saw the map of downtown Georgetown, my parents used to live up in Myrtle Beach, and I've traveled Highway 17 up and down from the Charleston area to Myrtle Beach many, many times. I never once stopped at Georgetown except to get some gas. So now I'm far more interested in going into downtown Georgetown and exploring all of these assets that I otherwise would have had no idea about. And I think that in some ways, many of our assets are not known to lots of people who are cruising up and down I-26, and getting them to veer off and take advantage of the things that we have here is definitely one of the goals of what this cultural district would be. The next step really along the way is to get the town council to put, to kind of give us an official approval that they're in favor of this idea. And then we will work with the state arts agency to actually plot out what the map like that would look like. And then we hopefully will be able to present that to them sometime in 2025, get the official designation, and start bringing more people to downtown Somerville to take advantage of our arts and culture that we have here. Ready to take any questions if you all have them.
Yeah, I've got a question for you. You're making a very good presentation. And how many people have you got working with you so far? Or you're in the
There's
beginning?
11 of us on the steering committee. So that includes Steve Doniger from Dream and Jenna Riley from Public Works, Kevin Morrison. We've just have it. I'm forgetting his last name, Otis from the Sculpture in the South. When we were meeting last week at Public Works, we had more than 40 people in the room, and it was really a wonderful representation of folks from Somerville in all sorts of different neighborhoods coming together to think about what this could be.
Well, I think it's a good thing that you're doing, and it'll probably get bigger and bigger. You know, the town is growing a whole lot. So you probably be searching for some people to work with you, I'm sure, sometime in the
Exactly.
future.
Yeah.
Good presentation.
Thank you.
I think this is a great idea. I would just urge the committee members to keep in mind the zonings where any of the cultural arts items falls within the town. Making sure it complies with current zonings, or if we need to create like an overlay district to make sure that,
Mhm.
I'm not sure. It's probably more discussion is needed, but I think it's a great idea.
Great. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brad. The one thing I would add too, is that the area that the committee is currently looking at is approximately a 1 mile radius from Hutchinson Square. Now, that's not to say that in Somerville that there aren't a lot of other cultural assets that lie outside of that area. But one of the requirements is that the area be strollable or walkable, which is kind of why they're looking at that kind of 1 mile area. Wonderful. The next item on the agenda is discussion of continued agreement with the Somerville Miracle League for a 5-year renewal of the original lease for the continued operation of the ADA accessible baseball facility on a portion of the town Saul Alexander Playground. This is requested from the Parks and Recreation Department. Essentially, there were no major changes to the agreement other than updating year and contact information, and then one small change under improvements, just outlining, including bleachers, dugout seats, and picnic tables that were not in the previous agreement.
I'm sorry, Amy, do we need a motion on that last item to go to council for any kind of approval?
No, I think just, for you guys to approve I don't think it needs to go to full council. I think you guys can, approve it for, Mr. Slatton to sign the agreement.
You're talking about the Parks District resolution.
Yeah.
That'll be on the agenda Thursday.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Are we gonna make a motion for the Miracle League?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? They do an awesome job.
The last item on the agenda is discussion of a town agreement with the Somerville Parks Foundation to host a grand opening event for Berlin G. Myers Parkway Extension. This request is also from the Parks and Recreation Department. Essentially what the Somerville Parks Foundation and the town of Somerville, or Parks and Recreation is wanting to do is to, with the opening of the Berlin G. Myers Extension is to host a community event. The initial conceptual idea is to do a fun run walk, starting at Loudon, coming down towards Carolina, having some activities along the way. And then once you get to the overpass, you would go back. There's still a lot of planning that needs to be done, but the request simply is at this point, the Somerville Parks Foundation would incur all of the expenses for the event, but they don't have a way to handle the reservation or registration. So to allow the registration to go through the town for that event, and then they would be reimbursing the Parks Foundation for that. This would be hopefully in addition to, certainly not to detract from any grand opening, ribbons cutting, things like that. Certainly the timing, hopefully be able to put some of those events together as well.
I know the other marathon or race that you do, we raise quite a bit of money on, so I think this would be a great. Do I hear a motion?
Would their money be raised for this, for the Parks Foundation?
Yes.
I'll make a motion that we move this to full council for approval.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, there is public safety.
Oh.
Go back for Jesse. Good evening. How are y'all? Yes, sir. On behalf of the police department, we have been for many years now closely monitoring vehicle-borne attacks at public events. We have adjusted our posture to mitigate some of those dangers at our public events. When I became the chief of police, we beefed up security in the fashion of our SWAT team, sniper overwatch, all different types of things that the public needs to feel safe, knowing that when they come to a large scale event or any size event in the town of Somerville, that they're going to be safe. And obviously what happened on January 1st in New Orleans on Bourbon Street struck a chord with many Americans, including myself. And I know that it's been something that has resonated and brought us back to how dangerous vehicles can be when you have a 3,000-pound missile that's a passenger vehicle or $5,000 truck or SUV or a 50,000, 80,000-pound truck. So I have already been looking into, before the incident happened in January, different things we could do to mitigate that. And we had actually discussed Jersey barriers, which are much like those concrete barriers that they are in sections that you can pick up with a forklift and move and block the roads. However, they can be costly and they have to take a lot of space to be kept, which we don't have a lot of footprint to do that. And there's a lot of work needs to be done to load those and move those around. So mid-year, last month, you all brought up the idea of barricades and different types of things. And it's just so happened that I had already been looking into this. 2 days before this, I met with my SWAT leaders and we discussed this very same model you see before us. This is the modular vehicle barrier system. I will tell you all that, as you know, public safety is not cheap, but I do feel that this is something that we need to look into more seriously.
It does meet the criteria of hospitality tax funds. I know Ms. Rhonda appreciates that. But in this case, we would be looking at, if you look on the top right corner, the bottom one, there's 4 pictures there of trailers. The one that says 72 unit up to 10 lanes. We would actually need to purchase 2 of those trailers. There's 72 in each, which is 144. And what that looks like, and I'm going to show you a video in just a moment. This would cover any major event that we have here in the town of Somerville. I wanted to get enough coverage to cover the Flowertown Festival, the Christmas Parade, the Sweet Tea Half Marathon, Third Thursday, the Christmas tree lighting, any number of events that we have that we can put these out. And basically what it is, the military has refined this over the years. It's 53 pounds per unit. As you can see in the bottom left corner, there's a person carrying that. One police officer can go out and actually deploy these. They work like an accordion. They are affixed to one another. So basically, if you can imagine, 1 unit would equal 1 lane of travel. So 2 units would affix to one another, and that would actually block the roadway. Next. Yeah, you could, whatever you have next. So this, for intensive purposes, is what it will look like. It can't be sped up or slowed down, but the first vehicle you're going to see is going to be a Dodge Ram pickup truck that weighs 5,000 pounds at 30 miles an hour. £5,511 vehicle. Can you turn the sound on so they can hear it? Because it sounds pretty cool. All right, next you're going to be looking at a flatbed commercial motor vehicle, 16,500 pound vehicle. I think he gets up to 20 miles an hour, 25. He's 20. Okay. So you asked, what would this cost? Here, to show you. And this is a sole source. Yeah, you're good. All right, so we're looking at about $172,000 per unit. I'm sorry, 185,000 would be at about 370,000 without tax. Before you get yourselves all upset, can't put a price on safety. We can seek grant funding for some of this. Certainly, I'm sure with this administration, when it comes to Homeland Security, you're going to see some more grant money hopefully come available for public safety. But I advise you all a little bit many things this could be used for. Obviously, anybody could drive around a barricade, but we would be very strategic on how these are put out. We have manpower at each one of those locations. If you looked at the New Orleans incident, there was a police officer there sitting in his vehicle, and they just drove around the vehicle and went up on the sidewalk. So we would be very strategic how this is used. Again, I'm not asking you to make a decision today, but what's important is we have met with the Charleston County Sheriff's Office and other local agencies last week for a demonstration with this. And they're going to be moving forward buying 2 sets of trailers just like this for their purposes in Charleston County for their events. And with the guidance of Mr. Slatton, we have asked for the possibility if we were to buy with them and purchase with them, whether that would make that cheaper for them and us, more cost effective teaming up. We actually talked about pooling resources would be if we had all these in a central location, we could use theirs, they could use ours. I don't think it's a wise idea because they might get a lot more use out of theirs in Charleston. I don't want them tearing ours up. I know if my people have theirs, they're going to take care of them. And it's nothing against Charleston, but they just have so many more events, and I have no quality control over what would happen with the integrity of those items. So I think it's an investment. I think it's something we need to look into very seriously. And again, I think a lot of you have been shocked by what a vehicle can do to people. And that has been something that people who've been radicalized have been asked and instructed to use as their mode of weapon to take out large casualties of people. So I want to be ahead of the game here. I think we're at the forefront here in this town. And I want us to make sure that the people who come here know that they're going to be safe. Any questions?
Period. Do they have a 5-year no interest thing?
I'll get into that, but it'll take about 8 weeks for them to get here. That's mainly because the trailer has to be built, specialized trailer. But Councilman Halter.
Are these barriers one and done?
No, sir. Well, if they're run over, they're done.
If they're run over, they're done.
Yes, sir. If they work, we've done our job. But yes, sir, they're one and done. But they have a shelf life, and the fact that they're in that trailer, we'd be able to cover, put that trailer under a covered canopy so that the weather doesn't get to them. But yes, sir, that's correct.
So what would the shelf life be, would you expect?
I think with as many events, we don't have as many as they do in Charleston. I think it could 10 to 15 years, easy.
Do they have some type of program that, if they were ruined?
Well, it's free advertisement for them. So it's kind of like bullet resistant vest. Yeah. Well, I mean,
They
like,
have to buy back a cheaper one to replace it.
well, I don't know their model, but I know how salespeople work and companies work. And bullet resistant vests, they give you a free one when you survive a shooting because it's free advertisement. So I think they would be in a situation there where they would do that. But yeah, if it breaks, I'm sure there's warranty and whatnot. I didn't get too far into that, ma'am, but a good business model, I would assume that they would have something like that.
And another question is, you said that, you didn't really want to share with Charleston County, but is it a possibility that if we were to get them, that if some of the smaller towns were having an event, like a parade or something, they could
Absolutely.
rent from us?
Well, I don't know if we'd rent. I would let them. I would lend them, but I would like to have Overwatch. It's
Sorry.
okay. I can hear you fine now. It's a good question. I know there's Harleyville, Ridgeville. They have the Grit Festival in St. George.
Yeah.
Those are things we could certainly look at, and I think even Dorchester County tapping into some of this as well. But I think this is unfortunately the state of where our country is right now. That local law enforcement has unfortunately had to become more proactive when it comes to militarized type situations where we have to look out for cars, trucks. Good
Well, I make
question.
a motion that we send it to full council.
Okay. Oh, I think he's just.
Oh.
This is just for discussion. I don't think it needs to
Oh.
go to council.
Okay.
Am I correct?
Well, I'm not the boss, so
Everybody who you.
I want
to
everything to
hear
go to
has
full
heard.
council, but certainly Mr. Slack can shed light on that for you.
Yes, sir. I think we've had the discussion. I mean, I'm happy
Yeah,
to.
I think probably, need council's discussion and approval to, if we wanted to move forward now, otherwise we would incorporate it into the FY 26 budget. Next week. And next week's priority setting session, which, it's just a matter of how urgent.
We don't have to buy them now, but right. And sir, if I may, the reason why I was so fast to get on this was the order time, and I don't want to be restricted, but with the Flower Town Festival coming with 8 weeks ahead time, I would like to have it again. I think we've been having to use fire trucks and MRAP and different heavy vehicles to augment that. I just think you all making that decision would be yours, but
Yeah. Other consideration is if we bought with Charleston County, would that help us on the price? And I think you're still waiting to hear. from them.
they're trying to use risk money that they have from insurance risk funds. They might have a much bigger risk fund than we do, but they also are applying for grants. I don't know that they're any type of rush. Not that we're in one, but I have some major events coming up here in the next 2 months that I think would warrant us erring on a side of caution.
I like the idea that we can use hospitality tax for that, but I think the bigger the conversation is how much money is available in that hospitality tax.
Right.
So if we need to take this to council, I will make a motion that we continue this conversation with the full council.
Thank you.
And I'll second if that's a motion.
This motion.
Mr. Mr. Brown, should we vote on this to send it to full council?
Take a vote.
Yeah.
Call the question.
Aye.
Aye.
If we're voting? Yeah. Okay.
You.
Oh, motion to adjourn.
Second that.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, I'll go ahead and open us up before everybody is seated. Go.
Uh-oh.
All right.
All right.
We're ready. Hello.
All right. The first item on the agenda is the discussion of moving utilities underground. I have reached out to Dominion Energy on just some input and advice on how to get this process started, like where to prioritize and just what their opinions are, and I have not heard back. So not much help in facilitating the discussion, but
So I've spoke to our rep with Dominion, and also some constituents brought this to my attention and said that apparently several years ago, there was an agreement to move the utilities underground, and there was a plan to do so. The council had voted on it, and they supplied me with some minutes and various things from previous council meetings that it was approved in previous years, but apparently it did not get done. So they've asked that I bring this forward again and at least start having the discussion and put a plan into place for the future, that we can at least start using a portion of the franchise fee funds that we collect on the utility bills to move the utilities underground in the residential district of the.
Yeah, I can shed a little bit of light on that. In 2023, the town struck a new franchise agreement with Dominion, and a section of that was carried over from previous agreements has or calls for the company and the town to pledge 0.5% each of the 5% franchise fee towards a fund to underground utilities. And in the agreement, it says if the town may require the company to convert overhead, it doesn't require it to do so. But there is funding that was identified. As I understand it, and the research that we've done about this issue, there was, at that time, Dominion said that there was about $1.2 million that they would have pledged, and the town was, under the agreement, going to pledge about $1.2 million over a 5-year period. That has not taken place. At least on the town side, we do not have $1.2 million sitting in a fund to use for undergrounding, and I don't know if Dominion does or not. I've not had that conversation with them. Certainly, if this is something that the council wants to pursue, then we can talk further about it. What I can tell you is that 40% of the $3.3 million that we received in Dominion franchise fees for fiscal year 24, 1.3 of that, or about 40% of that, is going towards debt service on the Bear Island Road project, which leaves around $2 million that goes into the town's general fund. That 0.5% of ours would equal around, somebody help me do the math, 2 million, 0.5%'s what, $400,000, something like that, $250,000, something like that. So it would knock that $2 million that's going into the general fund down to less than $2 million if we were to move forward with this. So just getting into this and figuring out the details and going over this franchise agreement in detail. But that's the information that I can give you today, and there is more forthcoming if we want to continue to have that discussion.
So I'd like to make a motion that we move this to full council for further discussion.
I'll second that. A question though, what are the figures these days? I remember at one point, what does it cost to put so many feet of line in the ground? Does anybody know that? Do we have that information anywhere?
A
Just out of
lot.
curiosity. Yeah, I remember it was a lot.
A lot.
15 years ago, we
Frank,
did.
what the Main Street Resiliency Project, undergrounding that, it's millions,
Yeah.
millions
that's
of
what I thought
dollars.
I recall.
Yeah.
And from what I was told by our Dominion rep and the main trunk lines is much more expensive to do than the smaller, more closed circuit inner streets. And I think that's what they were talking about doing in the past, working out. They had decided a plan apparently in the past that they were going to do some of the inside
I haven't
streets.
seen the plan. That's something that we're going to continue to explore and try and find out where that is and what it says and what it did or did not obligate potentially the town to do.
Yeah, I remember a little bit of discussion as well. A couple of years ago, it was, especially in some of the older neighborhoods of downtown your district mostly. But yeah.
Well, we do have a motion to
But-
send,
Oh, no good. No,
We
I'm good.
we have a motion to send to full council for discussion, and a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Okay.
All right, the second item is discussion of a right of entry agreement for Maple Street project between Dorchester County, Interfor US Incorporated, and the town. Michael Baker International drafted this agreement as the right-of-way agent. And this is from the legal department. I don't know if GW has more specifics on it. I know it has to do with the last 400 feet or so of the project, that there was a change order that came in, several months ago where Dorchester County's project, the widening of Highway 78 Phase 3A, would widen part of North Maple Street that was widened, and we'd have to rip it out, and it didn't make much sense since they're so close to bidding out that project. They're finishing up the right-of-way acquisition. So we included that with the Maple Street project, but now it's like we need the right of entry agreement because of that widened area.
They had to do that chain link fence on, that they want to sign agreement, even if there wasn't a fence there, they would want the agreement permitting us to go on into full property. And the agreement provides for taking the fence down and putting it back up if necessary.
I would move for send this to full council for the recommendation for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all in favor of sending to full council?
Aye.
Okay, the ayes have it.
All right, the third item is discussion of agreements with DOT for snow and debris removal on state roads. This had come in before our recent snowstorm. There are,
The day before.
yes, the day before, right. And it looks like templates of what they had given other local governments and agencies, where we would use our vehicles and equipment to help clear the right of way and push the snow and ice out of the road.
Just allows us to do it.
Right.
I move for approval to send it to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second? All in favor? Or do we have any discussion? Okay.
And
all-
we have the equipment already for this.
We have some equipment. We have a motor grader that was used this last storm, but we are planning to order some attachments, a snow plow attachment to be able to put on, our existing equipment instead of a whole new equipment. But we do need to order more of that.
This also has to deal with the first push on debris removal during hurricanes events like that, when winds blow, gives us the authority to go in and make a first push if we can, with what equipment that we have.
Is the purchase of the additional equipment already in the budget, or are we going to hear that at February 19th budget meeting?
It's already in the budget. We have funds available in the budget. Very inexpensive.
Okay. No further discussion.
Okay, so we have a first and a second to move this to full council. All in favor?
All right.
Okay.
All right, and the last item on the agenda is an update from DOT on the Berlin G. Myers Parkway project. This is Mr. Kevin Turner with DOT.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have to get with Chief Wright about those barriers. I think they'll protect my guys a lot better than an orange cone does on the side of the road, for sure. Yeah, I'll purchase them for you. How about that?
Deal.
Let's get that on record.
We just did.
All right. So thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it. As a DOT, I believe we understand that construction is noisy, it is dusty, it is messy, it changes lives, it disrupts traffic. We know of all those things. So sharing information is key for us, and we're happy to do it. I've always been told when speaking in public, don't ever apologize. So in lieu of doing that, I'm going to ask for grace if you notice any typos in this bowl of word spaghetti on the screens. I have spent the last 5 days standing on the side of College Park Road dealing with that bridge emergency. So the project overview, this is probably not a lot of new information for you, but it's roughly a 3.5 mile extension of the existing Berlin G. Myers. It is reconstructing one bridge on Loudon over the Sawmill Branch and now the trail. It's constructing 6 new bridges, 5 of which are flood management structures, one of which is probably the most visible aspect of the project to the citizens in Somerville, and that is our single point urban interchange, our grade separation taking Berlin G. Myers up and over East Carolina. There's a couple of box culverts in there, predominantly they're in the Greenway Boulevard area. We're constructing 5 intersections, 4 of which are new. We'll have an intersection of Berlin G. Myers and 17A out near the Indian Springs community, that general area. New intersections at Orangeburg Road, Greenway Boulevard, Loudon, and then completely overhauling the intersections and completely overhauling the intersection at East Carolina into a single point urban interchange, as we said. It includes realignment of the Sawmill Branch Trail, the addition of about 1.5 miles of new multi-use path that did not pre-exist the project, and a lot of branch mitigation, much of which is actually downstream of our project and was essentially in the Bacon's Bridge Road to the Y, that area, the Oak Brook Y. So the schedule, we began late spring of 2022 after receiving bids in early spring of 22. The project's a little over $100 million. And the original completion date for the project was September 30th of 26. That's still a ways out for us here. We've formally and officially backed that date up to June of 2026, but we are hoping to do much better than that. If you look at the slide here, we say that at the end of 2024, calendar year 2024, we were 63% complete on time, but we were 85% complete on budget. So you can tell we are spending money. We are progressing construction faster than the time we have allotted to the project. So that is lending itself to an early completion. Major accomplishments. We've got a great team out there. I really can't say enough about them. Many of the contractor personnel, myself, members of our consultants that are out there overseeing the construction, many of them have ties to the Somerville area, call Somerville home. And I think that's gone a long way towards what we as a DOT are measuring by our metrics as a very successful project thus far. The downstream mitigation, trail realignment, the storm drainage, the bridge structures, the culvert construction, all largely complete. Or at least close enough. I feel comfortable calling them complete here in this public setting. The two items I didn't mention on the screen are earthwork and utility relocations are also essentially complete. And if anyone knows anything about construction, those are two of your largest risk factors that exist in getting a project completed. So it's good to have those behind us. Upcoming work. I mean, we're not done. Clearly we have work remaining. But I think that the items I'm going to discuss here will kind of, again, start to lend itself to understanding, you know, how close to the finish line we are getting. These are not major items of work for the most part. Permanent signage, right? We need stop signs. We need, you know, traffic signal ahead signs. We need permanent signs on the side of the road. We need permanent pavement markings and arrows that mark the roadway. Asphalt and guardrail are both on the list. Both are in the 50 to 75% complete. So it's not that they haven't been started. They are well underway at this point in time. Concrete medians and islands also underway already, but still have some work remaining. Really about the only bridge item remaining at this point in time is the painting of the structural steel girders that are at the interchange at East Carolina, there between 5 Points and the Harris Teeter. And we have landscaping and permanent grass, but all of those things kind of sound like cleanup things if you really think about it. And that's really about where we're at. What I think is a real success of this project has been the community involvement. I think having that buy-in from the project team to feel passionately about the project, because we call this place home, just like y'all do, has led to us listening to the community. We've gotten a lot of feedback from the community. We have not been able to solve every problem that has been brought before us by the citizens of Somerville, but we have tried where we can to make positive change for them. One of the big ones is in working with the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee and groups like Bike Walk Somerville. We've made changes to sidewalks at Loudoun and East Carolina. Both of those were essentially sidewalk connections between two multi-use paths. We've done what we can to widen them out as much as we can to make interactions between bicycles and pedestrians much less likely, give them more room, keep the bicycles from having to dismount to continue to use those facilities. We received some input regarding concerns over individuals loitering in the interchange area. So the Garden Hill community brought those concerns to us, and we've modified our project to introduce some bridge lighting underneath the bridge so that we can make that a less desirable place to hang out, as well as increase safety for those bicycles and pedestrians that are navigating through that intersection to use the Sawmill Branch Trail. We've worked with Dorchester District 2 in a couple of occasions to give Gregg Middle School some relief to their car rider queue line. We've worked with the Somerville Athletics and their baseball facility. We've had an interesting situation where Dorchester District 2 was introducing a sidewalk project that was on the opposite side of the road from our sidewalk project. So we have added some additional sidewalk, added some ped heads so pedestrians can safely navigate through those intersections and be able to make good use of the project that Dorchester District 2 is moving forward. We've been able to accommodate the Sweet Tea Marathon. We've worked with some stop merge conditions for the Garden Hill community to make their ingress and egress from their community a little safer for them. We've gone a long way with the Sawmill Branch Trail. We understand it is very important to the citizens of Somerville. My little girl learned to ride her bike on that trail, so I understand it's important. And originally going into this project, we were anticipating having to shut it down for months at a time during construction. And we've been able to minimize all of those complete closures to 3 to 4 days thus far. So we've had a lot of wins, and I wanted to make sure we highlighted them here for y'all today. And with that, I can do a couple of different things. One, I can open it up to questions if you have any. I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. Or I also have some drone video flyovers that they're several minutes long each for some of them. But if you have anything specific you want to see, I can we can have a video pulled up for you and we can let you see that from an aerial perspective. So. You'd like to see at least one? All right. Do you mind pulling up? How about Bridge 2 to End, I think is how that video is titled. So, yes.
Did the floodplain adjacent to the new parkway either grow or proceed to the new location?
Yeah, so the floodplain was extensively studied by the Army Corps and by the Department of Transportation throughout the development of this project. We had to go through a certification of no rise to indicate that we were not worsening any flooding conditions due to this project. And in many cases, we have made what I will call very minor improvements. I mean, think like tenths of feet, not multiple feet. Yes, sir. The floodplain in many of these bridges that we've constructed are to help balance those floodwaters. We've actually benched into the Sawmill Branch, meaning it takes more water now to overtop the bank. And when the bank does overtop, we have created storage areas to help offset the storage areas that we have brought fill into. All right. Yes, ma'am. So this is Bridge 2. So if you think we're basically starting behind the country club and we are moving towards East Carolina, this is Bridge 2. This is one of those floodplain bridges. Whenever the branch comes up really, really high, the water will pass underneath that bridge and help use some of the storage in those wetland areas on the other side. This is the irrigation pond on your left here associated with the Mylar Country Club. You can see a lot of that guardrail lining either side of the road is already in. So when I said it's 50 to 75% complete, we are motoring forward here. The greener areas to the right of the road and up here where we haven't seeded yet, it kind of transitions to a brown color. That is those floodplains that we've dug down to give water storage areas a little more than where it previously existed. The path itself, you can see is, it's got some dirt on it, but it's been paved with new asphalt. It has been realigned. We were actually able to work with Somerville CPW to place that over the top of their facilities in that area. It helped greatly reduce the overall cost impact to the project by minimizing the relocation work they had to do. So that was a win for us and hopefully for CPW as well.
Yeah, is that at the same level as far as elevation?
Can you pause this, please, ma'am?
The trail?
The trail has, do you mind backing me up about 5 seconds? Thank you, ma'am. The trail, in most of the locations, the trail has come down about 2 feet.
Okay, but overall from the same spot, huh?
But overall, it's essentially in the same alignment. Most of the trail has shifted laterally.
Yeah.
So to the side, 8 to 10 feet.
Okay, so it did shift left or right a little bit.
We shifted it left, right just a little bit. And we did lower the elevation a little bit. And again, that was all associated with trying to get that Army Corps permit. If you look right here, I wanted to highlight, and thank you for pausing, ma'am, the switchback, which is on the lower kind of center, just to the left of the road on this image. This is the new connection for the T-Farm community. So they used to have a direct connection to the trail. It's clearly not super advisable to have people riding their bicycles across a controlled access freeway, essentially. So this is a switchback that will bring them up from the elevation of their neighborhood up to the elevation of the roadway, and they will utilize the multi-use path, which you see concreted to the left of our brand new asphalt, that will take them down to the single point urban interchange where they will negotiate under the bridge and then make their connection to the trail. You can continue, ma'am. Thank you. So as we continue on here, we're progressing on. We're still behind the T-Farm community, and you're going to begin to see some ramps deviating to the left and to the right of our main line. These are going to be an off ramp of Berlin G. Myers to get you to the Harris Teeter on the right. And if you're coming from 5 Points and you want to head towards Green Wave Boulevard, you'll be coming up that ramp on your left and heading top to bottom of the screen. You can see some of the vegetation that's already coming in, some of that landscaping. We work really closely with the town, and essentially we're serving as a conduit, essentially, to bring some landscaping in. Do you mind pausing here, ma'am? Thank you. We understand that the historic district of Somerville is right there. We understand that these are well-established communities in Tea Farm and Garden Hill that are immediately adjacent to this project. We also understand that bringing a road over the top of another road in Somerville is not a feature that is common to this town. It exists on the interstate, and as far as I know, that's the only location it occurs. So we hope that, you know, working with the town, allowing them to bring a landscape architect to the table, allowing them to have a lot of input on vegetation in that area will help take some of the utilitarian feel and edge off of the project and make it a little more peaceful and enjoyable to look at. You can see there's a lot going on here. There is currently where traffic on mainline Berlin G, those will become the ramps to get onto and off of Berlin G Myers, and they will no longer serve as the main line. They will just be access from Berlin G to get to Trolley Road, to get to 5 Points, to get to Bacon's Bridge. You can continue on, ma'am. Thank you. As we continue on, we're coming over the top of our bridge, reach the end of it. And at this point in time, we are between MSE walls, so mechanically stabilized earth walls that are about 25 feet tall. Can you stop, please, ma'am? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Get back onto the parkway down that side.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's entertaining. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. So that used to be a road at one point in time. That's right. Yes.
We can make the opening only as wide as the sidewalk.
Yeah, we'll certainly go scratch our heads and figure out what we think the best solution to that is, and we can communicate with the town what we do. Jersey Wolves. Yeah, but that is essentially reestablishing a sidewalk that historically had always been there when we went in and when we were doing our clearing and grubbing for what we call ramp 4, right there where you see the bulk of the traffic. We actually uncovered the old remnants of that sidewalk that had just essentially grown defunct over time, lack of use. So at this point in time, we've essentially come back to grade. So that is the term we use whenever we're back to essentially original ground. And the ramps and main line of Berlin G Myers will come back together at this point. And so up near the top of the screen, we're getting into the Gahagan Road area. It's going to start to emerge. And that's essentially where our project is kind of coming to an end. Now, there's other work on some of the sidelines on Greenwave Boulevard. We've done some realignments and new roadway work there. But one thing I will highlight that we did not run that video. And again, thank you for your time. But yes, these videos are several minutes long and I want to be respectful of your time. But I want to make sure everyone's aware that 17A will essentially come to a stoplight T intersection where Berlin G Myers will become the free flow main line into 17A. So 17A will make a hard 90-degree right turn at a signalized intersection. And the alignment you're used to now will actually become cul-de-sac so that we maintain access to those couple properties right there. Any other questions? I'm happy to field them, but I don't want to take up your entire evening either.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for your help on the project too. I know early on I called you a few times and you were very receptive to listening to what we had to say, and thanks for all the help on the project. Well, it's looking great.
Well, thank you all for y'all's time. Thank y'all for y'all's time as we've completed the project. And if I can thank the town of Somerville, I will do that here in this forum as well, because the large majority of the residents we've had the ability to interact with have not always been happy, but they have always been respectful. And we really appreciate that. We don't always get that as a Department of Transportation. So thank you.
Sure.
And I just want to tell you and your department, thank you as well. I've reached out to y'all a few times about constituent requests and you guys are always pretty responsive. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we move to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, thank you. Right. Yes.
All right, we have a quorum up here. We may go ahead and get started. Call the Finance Committee meeting to order.
Good evening.
Are we on, Beth? Everything good? Okay, and we'll turn it over to Miss Rhonda.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. You have before you the January finance report. This is one of the months that I get to say that the revenue exceeded our expenses for the month. There are not many of these that happen in the year. So I will relish this. We took in $4.3 million. We obviously got our biggest chunk of our property tax revenue, or a large portion from the county this month. We took in, so year to date, we're at 32% of our revenue. We're finished 58% of the year through January. Our year to date is just under $14 million. Our expenses for the month are a little over $3 million, and year to date is $27 million. So we have spent 55% of our budget again for these 7 months. The transfers or hospitality, so net for the month is just over a little over 1.5 million, and we are at $11 million deficit. So we're starting to climb the hill again, back up. So revenues, again, the biggest chunk of revenue for our property taxes is 2.9 million for real estate property. Total for the month is 3 million, and year to date is just under 6 million. So we've collected about 31% of our property tax budget. License permits and fees, we've collected 374,000 for the month.
just under, or just right at 2.8 million for year to date between business licenses and permits. Let's see if there's anything stood out. Municipal courts, we took in 25,000 for the month, year to date, 166,000. State revenues, which includes the local option sales tax, and aid to subdivisions, is 607,000 for the month, and year to date of 3.7. 3.1, I'm sorry. Parks and Rec, for the current month, we've collected 75,000, and year to date is 318,000. Miscellaneous revenues, 210,000 for the month, and year to date 1.7. And again, we have the transfers from local option sales tax. Any questions about any of the? Sure. I'm sorry.
Year to date, we've collected 16% of the budget on the licenses and fees.
Yes, that's correct.
Is there a
The-
reason why that's
Yes,
much lower than expected?
yes. Well, our business licenses is in that category, and that
Okay.
represents 12, $13 million.
Yes.
Most of that will come in April, May, and June.
Okay.
And really about 5 to 6 million comes in June.
Okay. Well, you didn't seem too alarmed about it, so I wasn't either, but I just thought I'd ask the question.
Like I say, this, I say to myself a bunch, why are we on a June 30th year end?
Yeah.
Because we just are so heavy into all of our revenue being concentrated in April, May, and June. It gets to be a difficult budget puzzle. But anyway, thanks for asking.
Would it make life easier for you if our fiscal year matched the calendar year?
I think it would,
Okay.
but I'm sure there was a reason for being at June, but I don't know what that
I'm
is.
sure too. I don't know what it would be.
Had to have time to notify the county.
I think you could match your spending plan to your budget a little quicker. That's one reason, Bob. All right, I'm sorry. Anything else on revenues or expenses? Okay,
Did I miss hospitality tax?
not yet.
Okay.
That was the last transfer on that.
Okay.
So I think we're on impact fees next. Is that correct? Somewhere on there. Okay. Impact fees, of course, these are residential and commercial across Parks, Rec, Fire, and Municipal. Across all three of those categories, we collected about 95,000 for the month. And year to date, for across all of those is about almost $2.5 million across all of those funds. We didn't have any current expenditures in those categories during the month of January. And year to date, we have spent $700,000, a net excess of 1.7 million. Makes sense? All right, hospitality and accommodations. We collected 446,000 for hospitality during January. Our year to date is 3.4 million. That is roughly, if I look at the revenue, we're about 57%. So we're running right where we should be as far as budget. I would imagine that they will increase a little on some of the higher in spring. I think some of the hospitality and all that. So that's not an even distribution across the months either. So I think we're probably slightly ahead of the game on that category. Expenses, which includes a transfer to general fund, are 377,000 for the month and 3.3 million year to date. So we have an excess of 268,000, not quite enough to buy our mobile barriers, but I'm sure we'll work that out. Accommodations, we collected 29,000 and year to date of 237. No expenditures out of that fund year to date.
At our budget meeting that's coming up, will each item that's on the capital expenditure Will we know if there's a possibility for that to be funded from hospitality tax?
Yes, we'll present any expenditure that we have, we'll definitely present which fund we are recommended to be funding from. You certainly,
We won't be doing that at the February 19th meeting, but we will be doing that at subsequent budget.
yeah. And certainly you'll have the option to make a suggestion or alternate funding source as well. This is the stormwater fund. Excuse me. Again, we are collecting part of our fees from the county through the tax bill. So we collected 538,000 this month, year to date 1.1, which is 46% of our budget. Expenditures, 83,000 and our year to date, just under $1.5 million. We're still in a deficit position year to date. That will change also in the next coming months. Any questions about this? Any other observations, concerns?
No, it's nice to be on the other side of the hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, Ms. Rhonda.
Thank you.
Item B, authorization for town administrator to enter into a vision plan management agreement with Dorchester County and the Greater Somerville Dorchester County Chamber Foundation.
I'll make a motion that we approve that agreement.
I'll second that.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion? I just want to make a quick mention that I did speak with county council at their meeting on Monday, as well as the chamber did. And they were in unanimous support of working with us and being a partner on this vision plan. And I'm extremely excited for what it can do for the future of our community. So thank you all for your support of this as well. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify, did we say that it's going to be 100,000 from county and town, or 100,000 total?
The total is each, but I don't think that's the final full number. That was just the estimate. Is the contract actually been satisfied? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the contract establishes that the county and the town would pay $100,000 each. It's in the contract, so that's what we're obligating
Fantastic.
tonight. Yep.
Item C, authorization for the town administrator to enter into an agreement with the Somerville Miracle League for a 5-year renewal of the original lease for the continued operation of an ADA accessible baseball facility on a portion of the town's Saul Alexander Playground.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item,
And before you read this item, I'm going to turn the gavel over to the Mayor Pro Tem and recuse myself of this.
item D, authorization for staff to spend up to $40,000 of Parks and Recreation impact fees for the completion of the Gahagan Storage Building Project.
I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
All right, motion and a second. I did not recuse myself from this one. I just checked it off beforehand. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And now I will recuse myself and pass the gavel.
Item E, authorization for the staff to award the fall 2024, winter 2025 roadway resurfacing contract to Banks Construction for $1,509,194.15 to be reimbursed by DOTC funds. And here's the list of the.
I'll make a motion that we approve this, Mr. Mayor.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and a second for approval. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion. So all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone unopposed? I'm sorry, opposed. Okay, the
How-
ayes have it.
How did we determine which roads would be chosen for that resurfacing?
Those were the ones in the worst shape.
Okay.
Yeah, our original request to DOT for C-Fund money was a lot more, and they didn't have enough to cover it. So it was like, come back with you're the worst of the worst. And so those are in bad shape.
Thank you. Item F, authorization to issue a purchase order to Motorola Solutions in the amount of $244,231.65 for 24 APX 6,700 model 2.5 walkie-talkies as part of the capital improvements plan for radio refreshment. Funds are to come from approved budgeted general fund, and this request is from the police department.
I make this motion, Mr. Mayor, that we approve this.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Item G, authorization to issue a purchase order to Motorola Solutions in the amount of $165,351.46 for 20 APX 6,700 model 2.5 walkie-talkies as part of the capital improvements plan for radio refreshment. Funds to come from approved budgeted general fund, and this request is from Somerville Fire and Rescue.
I make this motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I just had a quick question on that. Do we know about how long those radios go between needing to replace those?
7 to 10 years. There's an end of life on many of them as well.
Thank you.
Item H, request from the Parks and Recreation Department to surplus R67, a 2003 Chevy 1500 with 185,112 miles.
Make a motion to approve the surplus.
Oh, second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
All right, real quickly, I want to share a couple of things with you, council. We recently have been having discussions with a new health insurance broker in an effort to try and move us towards some solutions and trying to, as I explained to you at the mid-year budget retreat, to limit the increases in our health insurance premiums for the town, for our employee health insurance program. We have initiated the process to change that broker of record. And what that's going to do is with the new agency that we are proposing to go towards, and we'll bring more information to you and an agreement at a future date. The broker that we're looking at and have been in discussions with has access to better and more detailed information from Blue Cross and has a relationship with them that our current broker does not. And so we are our current broker we've been with for a number of years. And so the administrative staff, after consulting with our friends in Florence County and the success that they've had with the firm, I just want to let you know that we are initiating that process to change that agent of record. Any questions?
Thank you for looking into that.
Absolutely, 100%. Next thing I'll talk about is 3 earmark requests that we submitted to Representative Murphy last week. These are requests to be funded from the fiscal year 26 state budget. The first is for $8 million to continue funding our Main Street Resilience Program and the project that we are undertaking in what's the term I'm looking for, Frank? We're in the scope phase right now of that project. We also have submitted $5.2 million request for security cameras along the Sawmill Branch Trail. As you'll recall, that was something that was of interest to all of us after a number of incidences that have taken place on the trail. Now, we're not expected to get that $5.2 million if we get any of it, but there are 3 different purchase levels, if you will, in the proposal that Chief Wright submitted and we gave to Representative Murphy. One is for a lesser amount of a little under $400,000 to place cameras at each of the 3 trailheads. That's probably a more realistic expectation that could get funded. And then there is a price point for cameras just along the trail. And then the 5.2 represents the all-in for the whole thing from start to finish along the 7-mile trail. And that's a camera every 300 feet along the trail that would be recommended by the consultant. So we'll see how that goes. And then the last project that we submitted for was the painting of a mural on the new bridge on the Berlin G. Myers Parkway to try and soften that visual that you heard the representative from DOT talk about in conjunction with the landscaping that is going on, that's being installed there. And so that's $100,000 that we asked for there. And hopefully we'll see some results from those 3 requests. So if you're talking to Representative Murphy or any of the other members of the delegation, particularly Senator Bennett, who's on the Senate Finance Committee, maybe you ask him to also support those requests when the budget comes over from the House to the Senate Finance Committee later this year. Any questions about any of those 3? And then, of course, I'll remind you of our priority setting session next Wednesday, the 19th. I think that's the day. Will be at 9 o'clock at the chamber, in the chamber boardroom. Just to reiterate, I will lead us through an exercise that will hopefully lead you to consensus on some of the items that were presented to you by the department heads at the mid-year budget retreat. I sent those slides to you again. What I would ask that you do is concentrate on those and decide on the things that among those lists that you think are most important and what we should all reach consensus to try and fund in the fiscal year 26 budget. At the conclusion of that part of the meeting, I want to solicit from you other priorities that you have on a personal basis. We'll get consensus on some of those, and then staff will take that information and we will begin to craft a budget proposal for you to consider in March when we'll have a budget workshop to give you those numbers, give you the idea of what revenues match up with the expenses that you've identified, and then we'll move from there. Again, my hope, according to the budget calendar that I presented to you at the mid-year, is to have first reading of the budget concluded or take place in May at the May regular council meeting, second reading at the June council meeting, and have that thing sewn up and put to bed by the time the fiscal year ends on June 30. Any questions about that? All right.
Excellent report, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
There are no items for Finance Committee executive session this month.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adjourn the Finance Committee meeting.
Second. All right, motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are